We're definitely focusing more on skin. I think skin has been overlooked for a really long time in aesthetics, and it's more about adding volume and adding Botox, which does help the skin, but more on a regenerative level of healing the epidermis, healing the dermis.
This is the Aesthetics Growth Podcast.
Hey everybody, it's Brett. Welcome back. We've got another episode of the Aesthetics Growth Podcast, and today I'm super excited, much anticipated. We are welcoming Brittany Perez, real powerhouse within medical aesthetics and wellness. And Brittany is coming to us today from Pensacola. She is the owner of Mila Med Spa and co-founder of Method Training. Brittany, I'm not even going to tease anything that we're going to talk about today because today's episode I know is just going to be chock full of value. I'm super excited to welcome you to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Excellent. Brittany, for anybody who may not know about you, would you mind just giving us the headlines on a little bit about who you are and your growth up through the industry, this beautiful industry within aesthetics?
Yes, I actually started in makeup, and that's kind of where I learned lights and shadows and contouring. And through that, put myself through nursing school. I was a nursing instructor for a couple of years, and then through that, found a job in plastic surgery. I worked in plastic surgery for about 10 years. The first part of that, I was a clinic nurse, and I would operate in the surgeries. I would help assist. I would do pre and post-op care. But what I quickly learned was that I loved administering Botox and filler. And I started with the 50-unit free vials that patients got with their breast augmentations. And so it really just took the pressure off of me as a provider because, it was a free vial and we hope that they love their results, right? And I became excellent at that skill, so much so that the plastic surgeon said, you know what, let's move you out of clinic and we're going to move you into full-time injectables. And I pretty rapidly grew my patient base there over the next 7 years. And I loved the opportunity. I had a lot of mentorship, a lot of growth, but I had kind of reached my ceiling and I was always an entrepreneur at heart. And so I ended up opening Mila Medical Spa. And before I opened Mila, I also opened a training academy, Method Aesthetics Academy. And that was also another passion of mine because in the industry, even for myself, the courses that I would go to didn't really leave me with the skills that I wanted because I didn't get enough of that hands-on one-to-one training from the instructors. And so really we developed Method to give very small group trainings and let the students leave with confidence. So we melded Method Aesthetics Academy and Mila together. We have them in the same building now. And we opened 2.5 years ago into our facility. And now we are working on our third location for Mila Medical. And then I actually started a podcast as well called Elevating Aesthetics. I do that with another co-host, Megan Theus. And yeah, I love being an educator in this field. I have such a passion for it. And that's why I do things like this, because I just want to share my brain with everyone else.
Awesome. Wow. Love it. So obviously ton under the hood there that we can unpack a little bit. I hear the passion for sure. And it's kind of an interesting growth journey. I know we touched on it on our previous chat. What would you say was the real impetus for you to kind of have that courage and, like you said, to go into the entrepreneurship?
I never thought that I could do it. As many skills as I had, I was nervous to transition over, and I just had a couple of really strong people in my life that were like, you can do anything. Like, you can do it. We believe in you. We have your back. And actually another aesthetics provider that lives in my community helped me transition over with everything. He was like, do you need a chair? Do you need some talks? Do you need supplies? And he really had my back throughout the transition. And shout out to Jerry. But I'm so appreciative of all the people that I had in my life that told me that I could do it.
Awesome. I love that. So you've had good people in your corner, and what I heard as well, Brittany, that's always, important to be surrounded by the right people and find the right people, but also just that inherent desire to, like you said, to make it happen and to maybe not give up. Was it easy? Was it easy just like getting started, or was there any challenges along the way?
Every day there's a new challenge. I think anyone that owns a business would be lying if they said there wasn't something that comes up every day. But it's really just, I found more about consistency because I have had to learn that I can't do everything at one time and I can't be everyone at one time, which is where developing a team comes in place and developing trust with other people comes in place, because I quickly learned that I had to be able to delegate to continue growing and to be efficient in my business. But I would say, yeah, there's constant new challenges. I'm a spreadsheet girl. So one thing that I do love is Google Sheets and Google Docs. That's kept me sane.
Amen. I'm a spreadsheet guy as well, so I totally get that. Nerd out on spreadsheets actually gets me excited. Well, Brittany, you know what? Also, some of the things like growing a business when you go from injector, educator, hiring, leading, spreadsheets, data, all of these things when it comes to growing, but the many hats that you wear. What was how would you describe the tipping point, if you will, or that point where you had to start to delegate, like you say, to the right people, find the right people, delegate to the right people, and then start to, maybe we'll get into a bit more, but lead the right people along?
Finding the right people is still to this day a challenge, even though we do have a large team of 15 women. It's really more about culture first. And we have had a couple of hard lessons, and we've learned that instead of hiring for skill, that we hire for personality and emotional intelligence, and then we teach the skills along the way. Have a very specific hiring process now and interview questions that we ask. And we do shadow days to make sure that not only do we love them, but they love our business as well. So I think that there's some certain steps to take to make sure that you get the right people on your team.
So that's kind of worth its weight in gold for a lot of people too that are looking to hire and retain the right people. How has that, been for you? What systems did you put in place or learn and optimize as as you say, can really, grown your business, but also hired people in your community, become an employer and impacted lives of families from both the hiring standpoint, but also from growing that business, increasing your impact and treating and seeing more patients. There's always that ripple effect that sometimes, as the business owner, you don't even think about it, but, congrats and kudos for everything that you've achieved. And for anybody who's listening, I think there's just a lot of value that people can get when it comes to growing their medical aesthetics practice from understanding when to hire, and then perhaps you can share some nuggets on how you do that and do it so effectively.
A lot of new business owners ask me who is the first person they should hire and when should they hire. And I always say, hire an assistant immediately. Find the money to have an assistant because you can only grow your business and be successful if you're not burnt out. And
Mm,
especially a person like me that's a mom and a wife, and I have 3 dogs, and we have so many other things going on, I knew that I couldn't do it all alone. And so my first hire would always be an assistant because they don't have to wear one hat, they can wear multiple hats. They can answer your phones, they can assist you in the room, they can order your inventory, they can turn on the lights in the morning, turn them off in the afternoon. There's so much value to that, and in a role that, in our area pays between 15 and $20 an hour depending on, what you're doing. I always say, like, find that money as fast as possible to pay at least one person. And for me, that's how I did it. I had an assistant, and she was my right hand, and she was half of my brain because whenever you are trying to start a business, you have so many things going on from the operational standpoint that sometimes patient care can slip. Like maybe you forgot to answer that email, or you didn't get to the phone fast enough, or you thought you put him down for an appointment, but you didn't. She was able to be that other half of my brain that helps with organization. So that's always my first recommendation. And then something different that we do at Mila is we have a specific patient experience coordinator. And that's not an intro role, but that's something that as you develop your medical spa, I do think is a worthwhile position to hold because, again, sometimes we worry so much about getting new leads and focusing on all the other things that our patient experience slips. And that's what keeps that's what keeps people coming back over and over again, is how they feel when
yeah.
they're in your building.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk a little bit more about this because I know during our initial powwow, when I heard about, your dedicated team member hired just for patient experience, and I could hear the enthusiasm and I could kind of feel how that's impacted your business and impacted your patients really positively. So you hire an assistant to help you to kind of elevate outside of some of the things that you don't always need to do. When did you decide or find the right time to hire that specialist, that person who's dedicated to the all important patient experience?
The way that we hire at Mila essentially is we have our assistant, and a lot of times that assistant ideally is dual rolled. And I think that a lot of people don't realize, but the best person you can have as your medical assistant, in my humble opinion, is an esthetician slash MA. Because the estheticians are helping you work up that patient and they're doing a skincare consultation. So they are helping you with the skincare cells, making sure patients are taking good care of their skin, and then they are also able to assist you. And then the second position that's very valuable, in my opinion, is going to be a dedicated front office coordinator of some kind. And then once you get those two things settled, the third person that I would hire is a patient experience director. And that person can also kind of function as your manager, for the day-to-day operations, but they're at least 50% of their focus is how do we take care of the patients that we have, and how do we also help with team culture? Because while patient experience is a big part of her job, she also helps us focus on team building events and how the culture in the office can thrive. Because as you know so well, patients can feel that. And if you don't have a thriving team culture, you also won't have a valuable patient experience.
Absolutely. And, based off your experience as well from coaching with other business owners and in the space specifically as well, what do you find, or how do you find maybe lacking there in some practices? Because what you mentioned with the patient experience, it can mean one thing to one business, but something totally else to the patient. I'd love to hear from you, Brittany, as to maybe some of the most common maybe mistakes or gaps that you see potentially in the patient experience of other practices.
Something that I hear from patients most commonly is feeling like just another number, or feeling like they're just trying to be sold something. And that can be perceived easily whenever you come into a business, and we're taught to, talk about facial balancing, right? And we forget that they are there for a primary concern, and they're there to feel more confident. And whenever we break down their whole face in the first visit and we're like, and this is what's wrong with you, and that's what's wrong with you, that can be really disheartening to our patients. And so the first thing that our patient experience coordinator does, she is taking their photos and she's meeting them for the first time. So she gives them a genuine compliment. It's not something that we're telling her to compliment everyone's hair or compliment everyone's bag, but no matter what, you can find a genuine compliment about every single person that you interact with. So that is part of what she does. And then she gets them back into the room and she's making sure that they're comfortable. Because no matter where you go, if you, have been driving around and you're so thirsty, but you don't want to say anything because you're in the middle of your appointment, she's making sure, like, would you like any spa water? Would you like a coffee? She's meeting that need comfort wise down to blankets. Are you cold in this room? Would you like a blanket? She's making sure that their post-care instructions were received and ice, and she's making sure they have a follow-up visit. So that is a really big part of her role.
I think what you're talking about there is so important when it comes to the initial interaction with that patient. So you were talking about that new patient consult essentially, but then right down to it really expands outside of that, the whole like patient experience. So if you wouldn't mind, would love to any insights you have on that, that patient experience, that specialist, how they guide that journey. Because a lot of practices that we speak with at ClinicGrower, for example, they have a tendency to do what you mentioned earlier, which is, hey, cool, I've got my practice, I'm doing my services, I've got a few referrals, I've got some networking going on. Now I'm going to throw a load of money into paid ads because somehow, some way I've been influenced to do that. And there's potentially gaps in that patient experience. And what you're articulating there is it's how they feel. And then there's ways that you can help people feel safe, feel secure, feel confident, just enjoy the experience. So really, that's really it. If you wouldn't mind, any insights you have as to how you do that, because maybe you take it for granted, but there's a lot of practices that aren't as intentional with creating a wonderful patient experience.
I think intentional is such a great word, because that is exactly what we do. Is we try to be intentional with our time at the practice, and intentional with how we make other people feel. I always like to say, think about whenever you're going to a luxury hotel. Not everyone has been able to have that experience, but how do you feel whenever you walk in? You feel pretty good, right?
Mm.
Like, you feel like I am taking care of myself. I'm doing something for myself. And whenever you walk in, they greet you by your name. And that's something that our front desk does. They are able to pull up their photo ID and they're like, "Hi, Miss Perez, how are you today? Let me get you checked in." So greet your patients by their name as much as possible. Train your front desk to do that. I think that the front desk position is really, for some reason, an undervalued position, and they really should be more focused on, and they should receive more training, because it's the first and last communication that a patient has in your practice. So that's a really important part of patient experience. Remembering things about people. How good is it whenever you go to someone, like, say you go to your barber or you go to your hairstylist, and they're like, "Oh, you went on that vacation last time. You told me you were going on that vacation last time. How was it? Did you love it?" Those little things are like, she cares about me. She likes me. Um, and for people's big events in their lives, whether they're coming to you and they're getting prepped for their wedding, we have plenty of patients that are coming in like, "Okay, my wedding's in 6 months. What should I do?" We're going to be sending them a wedding card, like, "Congratulations. We were so blessed to be able to take care of you during that time. Like, congratulations on your wedding." Maybe stick a little gift certificate in there for $100 whenever they come back. Those are the little things that make the difference. And I was just reading this book. And it was talking about Disney's experience at one of their hotels. And at one of their hotels, it's not very nice. It's like kind of run down, and you wouldn't walk in there and feel like you're at a 5-star resort. But they do something special because in order for people to remember you, you have to do something that stands out. It has to be different than every other spa that they've been to before. And so, anyways, at Disney, at one of their resorts, they have a popsicle line. And while it's very inexpensive to do, basically the kid can walk up to this little phone at the pool and they pick up the phone and they're like, I want a popsicle. And they bring them out on a silver platter. And it's something that's
Mm.
simple. So I encourage other medical spas to have that moment. We don't necessarily share all of the things that we do in our practice because then it wouldn't be special. But just think of what could stand out for your patients in your practice and get creative and think about other businesses that aren't necessarily aesthetics or aren't necessarily medical. Think about any restaurant you've been to, any hotel you've been to, anywhere where it felt good. You had really good service or something was exciting or memorable, and replicate something like that in your medical business.
That is so key. And what you mentioned there, I'm not sure if I think maybe we did we speak about this, but there's a book I read, maybe it's about a year ago. It's called Unreasonable Hospitality by
Yep.
Will Gita. And that book is just so, even if you just take one or two ideas from that book, like you said, make them your own. But it's about listening to what people are saying,
Yes.
that patient, and then having some system, right? You have to systemize it because you can't remember everything. So whether it's a CRM, a way to recall details that can help to personalize that experience for patients. So
Yes.
when you mention that patient experience, I always get excited because that truly is, I believe, and can be for every business, a really unique mechanism to help them to grow and to get new patients, of course, but the retention piece, keeping those patients, I think that experience is so
Retention.
important.
Sorry,
Right.
I didn't want to cut you off, but retention is so important to me. And I think whenever we have newer businesses, we should really love on those 15 or 20 patients that we have, because then they're going
Mm,
to tell all their friends and they'll help you organically grow your business. Now, I'm not one to say not to use any paid ads, but we've never run paid ads. We focus on our community. We go to events, we give back. We do a lot of philanthropy, and we use our marketing dollars to actually give free services away to our clientele. And I know that that can be a little bit controversial, but instead of spending $1,600 a month on one billboard, we might take that $1,600 a month and give 4 patients 50 units of Botox for following us on Instagram and do like some type of giveaway. And that might not seem like luxury to some people, but it's giving back to the patients that you already have and they get excited about it. And that does better for us getting new clients than a one billboard.
yeah, I love that because that's a real win-win, right? You're giving maybe existing patients or someone who's within your community the opportunity to have that experience and to feel that experience that you provide for your patients. And guess what? When you do that, do they tell people about that? Do they post on social?
Yes, they
Right?
reshare it, they get excited, even
Yes.
down to our post care bags. We invest in our post care bags. We have very nice canvas tote bags, and we have branded chapsticks that feel really good when they go on, and people use those things over and over. So those were marketing dollars that we put back to our patients for them to have little goodies to use and to tell them thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. And I know I've checked out your social media, which I think is fantastic. On top of the kind of those win-win experiences that you provide for your patients as part of the marketing initiatives that you have, what else have you found from some of those media? We'll say social media is a great example. How do you approach that with your team to really amplify your marketing and to enhance the word of mouth that you provide?
Because we have so many women, we also have so many Mila accounts. The way we handle our social media channels may be different than other practices, but essentially we give them their name, Mila Med Spa, as their Instagram handle, and the business owns those. So if they do choose to move on at some point, which will happen, some people are here to stay and some people pass through, Mila will maintain that Instagram channel. But during their time with us, we have a social media manager who's in our practice 3 days a week. And not only does she help with our Mila page, but she individually helps all of our team. And they get paid a daily per post. They get paid a daily rate each time they make a post. So they're motivated to do that. And it's fun for them. It's not a requirement, because if we require it, then it kind of takes the joy out of it. But we allow them to be
Mm,
creative and have fun on their own pages and maybe make some TikToks, make some educational posts. But then on our main Mila page, we try to keep it as professional and educational as possible. But we have 15 girls, I believe, right now. And then we also have, aside from our main business page, we have a Mila Girls page that's just for all the fun stuff that we do behind the scenes. So our name is out everywhere. We're all posting once a day. And so that's 15 times that potential patients may be seeing us, maybe more.
That's huge. Hey, so a quick message, then we'll get right back to the show. This episode is brought to you by ClinicGrower, my growth marketing agency that helps medical spas and aesthetic practices to scale sustainably with multi-channel marketing, with smart automation and real-world conversion strategies. Now, I know that might sound a little bit vague, and that's because growing your business isn't really a one-size-fits-all formula. Every practice is going to be different, and so should your marketing plan too. So at ClinicGrower, we offer a completely free marketing audit, a growth plan, that's customized for you and for your business. This is going to include a full analysis of your current presence, your current marketing, your local competition, and also a roadmap, a growth plan designed to help you to attract more high quality patients and to increase your revenue and to grow your business. So if you want to scale with clarity and confidence, just head over to clinicgrower.com/schedule to book your free consultation. That's clinicgrower.com/schedule. Now back to the show. I love the way you mentioned the numbers there, because that's 15 times a day, right? And so that's, if it's just, even if it's just 5 days a week, 75 times a week times the 50, there's like, almost 4,000 times per year. So anybody who's listening, just thinking about that, is doing it, posting on your social, sharing what's happening is very exciting, right? People love to see what's happening at the practice. It's a way to extend your brand. And kudos, Brittany, the way you've been able to, I think, really enhance that process and incentivize it for the team as well to get them to buy in, right?
Yeah. And that's another part of our marketing budget, again, because we've been blessed and haven't, done paid ads at this point. That's what we consider part of our marketing budget, is giving back to our team. Like, it's another way to give them a bonus.
And so to kind of get into team a little bit. So when we initially spoke, and you just mentioned you've got your 15 strong, 15 deep, empowering women in your community. What's been the secret to build that culture and that cohesiveness that you have with your team?
Hard conversations.
Mm.
We have monthly check-ins, and that can be very time consuming as a business owner to check in with people in an intentional way. We used that word earlier. That's a good word. In an intentional way, and say, what are we doing well right now in your role? What could we do better? What do you need help with from me? Um, and it's just a way to open that channel, because we see each other back and forth all day long. And even my business partner and I, we have to be intentional with meeting. We had to set a very defined time to meet each week, because otherwise it just gets jumbled up. Time just passes. So what we have done at Mila is set aside time for each staff member, even if it's just 5 minutes once a month, to say, how are you doing? What do you need from me? And I think that that's so valuable. And I think it's one of the most overlooked things, because if we let people ruminate from misunderstanding, because most of the, I would say, drama usually comes from miscommunication, either miscommunication from not understanding what leadership is telling them, or miscommunication between two staff members. And then if it's never discussed and never brought to the table, then it just festers and it becomes a larger issue than it ever had to be. So what Katie and I have always decided, Katie's my business partner, is that if two of our staff members are going at it, we sit them down together. And every single team member knows at this point, if we hear anyone saying anything about someone else, just know, like, you're going to be sitting together in our office and we're going to talk about it. And I think that has played a huge role, because it starts from the top. I think every business that is having issues with their staff, there's something going on in leadership where they're not checking in frequently enough, or they're not shutting down negative communication.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, I firmly believe that communication it can be the root of increased success, when you communicate and understand where people are and helping them move along their journey. And also, to your point, where there's an issue with communication, that can really be the root of many problems as well. And I love the way, so you've got monthly check-ins, you systemize that, you've got that clear, quickest way from A to Z to bring people together to communicate. How have you found, Brittany, that that culture of clear communication, but also accountability? Where does the accountability piece, or how has that played into kind of measuring either success or trying to understand where issues may stem from?
As far as accountability goes with their job roles, every position has KPIs, or key performance indicators. And that is just a very fair way across the board to say, how are you performing and what can you do better? And most of us are moms and we have a lot going on outside of work. So ultimately, sometimes those things are going to get brought into work, and being human, we understand, but it's more of a pattern. Are we having the same pattern happen over and over again? And if that is the case, what's not quite right that we need to address. We never come from an accusatory place. And I think, again, going back to those self-evals, I don't know that I mentioned this, but those monthly check-ins are a self-evaluation. So they're grading themselves on 1 to 10, and it has about 20 different items depending on their job role. And it's essentially their daily task, and they're grading themselves on how they're doing. So as an example, one of the things on there is non-work related phone use, because
Mm,
that can slow the team down. And we were having an issue with non-work related, just Snapchat, TikTok, all those things, because we do promote social media, but it got a little bit out of hand. And the girls were all very honest in their self evals last month, and they all put threes or fours instead of tens. And that gave them the opportunity to say, like, hey, my bad, like, I recognize this. Instead of me going to them and pointing fingers, it gives them the chance to think, like, how am I performing? What could I do better? And I feel like
mm.
they're more receptive to change rather than a leader coming to them and kind of embarrassing them.
That's awesome. And quick question on that: did you then change sometimes the questions on the self eval, or yeah, that's
Depending
awesome.
on internal issues that we have going on at the
Mm,
time, the questions will be slightly changed. Their job duties will always be in there because I want to know how they feel they're performing and what they need help with, because it's their chance to tell me, like, hey, this particular task is overwhelming me. I might need help with it. And then depending on what's going on in the office, there's a few questions at the top that we're able to edit to address certain issues.
very cool. The quality of the output, it's all about the quality of the input. So I think that's just a great lesson for anybody listening too, is understanding as the business grows, sometimes you need to ask different questions and different answers for team members to help to guide them on their growth. And I know that you are really invested in growing your team as well, Brittany. We spoke about the way that you invest from a continuing education standpoint. Would love to hear a little bit more from you and anybody who's listening as far as, the value that you place in continued education for your entire organizations.
I am very strongly passionate about education, of course, and all of our method courses are offered to our injector staff. So they can come take our method courses at any point, and we're working on marketing courses, social media more than marketing, but business type courses as well for the girls, because they are essentially their own business within our business. And so that's important. As far as continuing education, something that's overlooked in a lot of businesses is giving continuing education credits to all staff, not just injectors. Everyone, depending on their job title and on their years with the company, they get a certain amount of educational credit. And so once a year, we try to all go to a conference together. And that allows us team bonding while also learning. And then we each have those different breakout sessions that we go to if you're social media, if you're a manager, if you're an injector. And so I think that one thing medical practices could do is either bring in a trainer. Allergan actually has a speaker. He's a business trainer, but he's amazing. His name's Dean for our territory, but he comes in and he does team building within our practice. So even if you can't afford CME for everyone, he's, I think, $750 a year, and he comes in once or twice a year and he trains our whole team on patient experience, on team culture. So that's something that you don't have $3,000 per team member to spend. You could invest in one person that comes into your practice.
That's really awesome. I mean, so the combination of that culture that you have from lifelong learning, but you're also building in this fun elements too. You're going to an event together, having a dinner together. I think that's really cool, by the way, that you're bringing in. I really see the value in bringing in outside speakers sometimes, because they can have a different, team members can hear things differently when it comes from the outside sometimes. So I think that's fantastic you're doing that.
And we do team building events quarterly as well, sometimes more, because we're all girls and we're all friends. We are all friends. This past Friday, we did Granny Grandpa bowling. So we dressed up as grandmas and grandpas and went to our local bowling alley. And that was super fun. But I think just quick little team building events we have done where we go and drink lattes and make our own ceramic mugs. There's so many little events in your area. It doesn't have to be expensive. You could all go play tennis together. Just try to make sure that we are doing, that you're bonding with each other, because we get so busy in the day to day that sometimes I don't even get to talk to half my team because I'm running clinic or I'm doing admin task. And one of the things that we did as well that we do with every new team member is Enneagram testing. Have you heard of that?
Yes, yes. I really geek out on this stuff too. So I'd love to hear your experiences with it.
We did Enneagram testing. And at that time, I believe there were 14 of us. And I made bookmarks with everyone's Enneagram type. And I gave them all the Enneagram book, so that we could learn about each other, because we all receive information differently. And I am very intentional with who I hire. And sometimes whenever I hire people and they don't quite fit in just yet, I like to remind the girls, like, hey, we're all different personalities. We're all going to learn a little bit differently. We're all going to speak a little bit differently, but ultimately we have the same goal, which is to take care of our patients and to take care of each other. And so that allows them to say, I can see why she thought I meant this because this is her personality type. And it's really fun to see them kind of look back on that Enneagram testing, and it helps them understand each other better.
Again, coming back down to that communication, there's a book that I read years ago as well. You just reminded me of it. Gosh, the name, I'm not going to recall the name right now, but it boils down to that communication. And
Yes.
one person says one thing, words get filtered, it comes across totally different. And so I think that's great the way that you kind of gamified it a little bit with the team as well to get that buy-in. And those, Enneagrams and some of the personality tests are really tremendous. Have you, through that process, be curious, have you had much feedback from the team or any kind of big moments or ahas as part of a team through some of those initiatives that you've launched?
With the Enneagram testing in particular, a lot of them actually went home and did it with their spouses and their children. They found it so fascinating that it helped other relationships in their life. And I thought that that was really cool. But I think that a lot of them are still very young, and I just matured very quickly. I moved out as soon as I could when I was young, and my brain developed into, I always wanted to be a leader, I guess essentially is what I'm trying to say. So I've always found space for people that are a little bit different, but are still very kind. They just don't communicate in the same way. And I think that doing the personality testing really helped the girls bond in a better way, because instead of pointing fingers and blaming, they're more accepting. I think everyone should do Enneagram testing with their spouse and say, hey, you know what? I can see why we're arguing on this point because this is my personality type and this is yours. And so let's find a happy medium.
Yeah, that's for anybody listening, whether you're running a business or in a relationship. I think it's just some nuggets there. You can get back in touch with Brittany later and thank her from there. Brittany, would love to, when it comes to things that you've been doing as a leader, you've been leading by example, growing your business, the culture, the communication, the way that you brought people together, leading into communities. When you look at the method, for example, what do you see as some of the biggest gaps in injector training today?
I think the biggest gap will always be the amount of hands-on time that you get. And I can see from a training facility perspective, there's just not really enough time in the day, because if you want everyone to have one-on-one training, you can only really take for one person 3 to 4 students. And so that for a lot of training facilities isn't enough money for the time spent. But Katie and I, it's really more of a passion project for us and not a moneymaker, because I could be in clinic making $10,000 to $15,000 in a day just doing my thing. Whereas on a training day, it might be $10,000 split between 2 people over 2 days. So I think if you are going to be a training facility, doing it for money is the worst case scenario, because it's never going to compare to what you do in a clinic day. But the gap for sure is having too many students working on one model and not really having any follow-up mentorship. You take a class and then you don't quite remember what the instructor said, but you don't have a resource to reach back out to. So at Method, you get our cell phone number. If you get into a sticky situation and you have a vascular occlusion, you can FaceTime me. We're friends, and my students lean on me. There are some that need me more than others in the beginning. And I just know that within that first year of them practicing, they might text me quite a bit. They might say, hey, how do I touch up this patient? I'm totally fine with that. That is the value in taking a method class, that you're going to have Katie and I as a resource.
Incredible. With the kind of the close proximity that you have both to teaching students and also education and the innovations in the industry, but where do you see the aesthetics industry? And I think even just aesthetics is evolving more outside of that word, but where do you see it heading in the next 3 to 5 years?
We're definitely focusing more on skin. I think skin has been overlooked for a really long time in aesthetics, and it's more about adding volume and adding Botox, which does help the skin, but more on a regenerative level of healing the epidermis, healing the dermis. We're treating a lot of inflammatory conditions like melasma and rosacea, so we're learning a lot more about how to handle those things. And just from a biostimulatory perspective, we're doing a lot more things to add volume, relying on your own body on a cellular level, again, instead of adding volume. Now, HA fillers certainly still have their place, and we use them every day in clinic, but I think we're leaning more towards a natural type procedure and less with large lips and large cheekbones. I think that's been the trajectory for at least the last 5 years.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, we hear that. I think you kind of feel that, and you get that from the patient demand as well. What personally, what is your favorite treatment to do yourself?
We do tons of PRF. PRF and PRF gel is one of my favorite things. Now, that does rely on the health of the patient, but anything that I can do to improve someone's skin and their volume at the same time. And with PRF gel, we're using their own blood, we're spinning it, and we take their protein or their albumin from their blood, and we take their plasma, which has the growth factors. And there's very, very slim risk with it, and you can inject it anywhere. Literally anywhere. You can inject small aliquots in the forehead, in the temples, under eyes, in the lips, and it helps with the blood flow to your skin. So it helps your complexion, it helps you glow more, and it can revolumize. So definitely one of my favorites.
Awesome. I love it. And I know we spoke about some events a little bit earlier, but just kind of getting involved in almost like a rapid fire around here to squeeze as much juice out of the knowledge that you have here. What are some of the favorite events that you've been to, some of the favorite events that you bring the team to, and maybe a little bit more about some of the events that you actually, that you do yourself, both at Mila and at Meth?
We do a lot of patient events at Mila, and we have a different theme. One of my favorite ones was where we did like Mademoiselle, and we dressed up in our little cute tea dresses, and we had a laser event like that. As far as team events, we go to, like I was saying, conferences a few times a year. One of my favorites that I've been to is Scale. I think that there's a lot of valuable information at that one. And then the one in Vegas, which is, it's on the tip of my tongue. Do you know what the name of the one in Vegas is? It's not aesthetic. It's not Am Spa. There's another one.
So let me see, an event in Vegas. Let me see. There's only one or two. No, I'm kidding. There could be. Do you have the aesthetic show? That's
The aesthetic show.
Yeah.
And so we like to go to that one because it has multiple different tracks for everyone. And then there's a few that I want to go to. One of my favorite mentors in the industry is Julie Bass Kaplan. I'm sure you've heard of her. She's one of my favorite humans, aesthetics aside, but she has something called a head and breakfast, which I want to take myself and my injectors to. I've been wanting to do that. There's so many great conferences. I think I've never been to Cult Conference, but I really respect the two girls that put that on. I think that would be something that I would bring my team to. And I would love to eventually, through Mila and Method, host some type of women in business conference myself in my state.
I love it. How important have events been for you at Mila?
It's really more for brand awareness, I think, than sales. We make it more fun than salesy, and patients come back over and over again, and they bring new friends each time. That would be part of our marketing budget expense. Instead of trying to get as many sales as possible, we're like, how can we interact with you? How can we be friends with you and make you have an enjoyable time here? And less, what can you buy tonight? And more like, it's good to see you. What's been going on?
Love it. I mean, as soon as you start talking about that, and even before, it kind of ties into that experience that you create for the community, and because you have obviously existing patients who come along because they love to attend and hang out because you guys are fun doing Mademoiselle and Granny Bowling and all these fun things. And also they probably bring maybe new people that have just moved to the area or guess what, right?
That's exactly what happens. We now have, our membership is called Club Mila. And we were talking about doing a Club Mila cruise where anyone that's in our membership can go on the cruise with us, and we would like pay for 50% of it, because cruises are not very expensive. You can get a little weekend trip for $300, and then they could like have fun with the Mila girls. And I think that that's something that we're considering as well. And we can like make it a fun time for our Club Mila members.
Wow, I love that. That sounds like so much fun. Number one, just from getting to know you a little better. And also just, it really adds to that, with patients just trying to get that extra access to community and to have that, it's limited. There's only a certain number of seats that there are available. So I think that's tremendous. When you do that, I want to talk to you after, because I'm sure it's going to be a raging hit.
It's going to be so fun. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, I think that some little teeny element of exclusivity is important too, because we want to welcome everyone, but people also want to feel important. And that's a way to have people that support us and are loyal to us to kind of give back to them and give them like a little bit of an exclusive access to learning with us and hanging out with us.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Let me ask you this. When it comes to growing your business, what would you say is some of the best advice that you've received, life, business advice? Anything that resonates with you there?
The best business advice so far has been hire slow and fire fast.
The timeless advice. Have you ever failed to do that and regretted it?
Yes.
Yeah, I think we all have, right?
One, I'm not going to give actually the specific situation. Sometimes you really want people to love what we do as much as I do, right? I want everyone to love my business and love taking care of patients as much as I do, but you can't instill passion into someone that doesn't have it. Someone that's just there to clock in and clock out, but they're very kind and they do things correctly, but they just don't have that to them. They're just there. Those are the hardest people to get rid of because you love them. Like I've loved everyone that's come through our doors, and it's never a personal thing. It just comes down to business, but it's being a woman and being empathetic. It's always so hard to let go of people that are very, very much underperforming because you don't want to hurt their feelings.
Mm.
So it's something that I try to live by, but it's very difficult to do in reality.
Yeah, yeah, definitely not as easy, but it certainly rings true when you have a thorough hiring process. You've got an identity, and you've got what the culture is like, core values, those types of things. How about Brittany, when it comes to your students, for example, or anybody who's listening, who's maybe they're like, oh wow, I wish I was Brittany. Maybe they're just kind of they're maybe still trying to break out from another job or go all in entrepreneurship. What type of advice do you typically give to people like that are maybe just finding it tough to really make that breakthrough? Any advice that you might give to someone who's starting out or trying to get to that next level?
Say, like Nike, just do it. Because
I love it. Yes.
you're not going to know how to do everything initially, and I don't know how to do everything almost 3 years in. You lean on mentors, you find resources, you do as much research as you can, but at a certain point, you just have to make the jump because if you keep waiting until you're ready, that day is never going to come. I think that's true even in relation to having children, that there's never gonna be their perfect time as a woman to have a baby, especially if you're a career woman. I felt the same way opening a business. There's just never going to be a perfect time and you're never going to be 100% confident. So you just have to do it and figure it out as you go. And you will
Agreed.
figure it out as you go. You'll make mistakes and you learn from them. You learn from your mistakes. But ultimately, with you and your business, I'm sure you still occasionally have something that you run across like, ooh, I wish I would have done that a little bit differently. Next time I'll do it differently. And you just
For
learn as you go.
for sure. For sure. I love what you said there. Take an action, just do it. A firm believer of if you take action and try to do, 100 things, and, they should be strategic and not silly. But if you try like 100 things and more than half of them work out to be really good, well, that's a lot of things that you're making progress on versus the inertia of would I, should I, couldn't I, and something else pops in. And we know what happens with that. That's going to lead to being stuck, being frustrated. And there's one life that we get. So we might as well take action while we're here.
I love that so much. That's absolutely true. And then lean on your Google Sheets and your Google Docs and take lots of notes and make checklists. I'm a fan of checklists. I am a fan of scheduling and blocking your time
Mm.
because sometimes with an ADHD brain like mine, I get so overstimulated that I procrastinate and it's debilitating. Whereas if I can schedule time blocks and I know I just need to get this one task done today. This is my priority for today. If I get that one thing done, I will feel accomplished and I'll get even more done the next day. But if you try to do 50 things in one day and you're like, I'm just not going to do anything, I'm just too
Hmm.
overwhelmed, then you can't make progress forward. So I think making a list and just trying to find one or two things a day to check off.
Yes, amen. And a lot of stuff you said there resonated. But there's kind of a mentor of mine, Alex Sharfin, but he had the expression that systems and process will set you free. And just that one thing, that time blocking and keeping it sacred, that if that time is there, and you better make sure it's important. It's not something that's trivial, but respecting that so that you can make progress versus, like you said, the procrastination and having 50 things pile up, because that's when it can get stressful.
Yep, you get overwhelmed, and I still have days when I get overwhelmed, and that's why I'm decluttering my house right now because I had a little bit of an overwhelming week last week, and then sometimes you just need to declutter your life a little bit.
For sure. That's a massive bonus for anyone listening, by the way. Just that, like you said, decluttering your life, okay, having a look at your desk, having a look at your wardrobe. These things can absolutely impact your business too, right? The way that
They
you
do.
live at home can impact. Would you mind just sharing, yeah, even like just a quick tip as to how that's been positive for you recently?
I just find that whenever I am overwhelmed in my life, I need something to control in the moment.
Mhm.
And one thing that I could control this past weekend was getting rid of things that no longer serve me. And that happened to be a lot of laundry, a lot of clothes that I could donate to other people. And sometimes we just have to clear things in our space and in our life to make room for more important things. And mentally, for me, I needed to get rid of some things in order to make space for other projects that I'm working on. And it's just kind of like symbolism, right? It's a little bit freeing, and then it motivates me to go into the clinic tomorrow and be more proactive and get some things done because I don't feel the weight of all this mess in my space.
Let me ask you, when you look at the remainder of the year, heading towards the end of 2025 next year, what's exciting you about what you have going on at Mila and at Method?
We do have some exciting classes coming up at Method. We recently were approved by the Board of Alabama Nursing to have a neuromodulator course, and it's very, very strict to get approval. So that was something that Katie and I were thrilled about. We are doing one-day courses, and you get enough models to get you certified. Now, there's some complexities that go with medical directorship in Alabama, but ultimately, that's the course that we're most excited about at Method. And then at Mila, we have our new coffee shop, Luma. It's inside of our medical spa in Pace, and that's a passion project that our office manager has been working on. She is a Jack or a Jill of all trades. She's incredible. And Katie and I kind of just had this vision of having something that was great for patient experience, and Jessica took that idea and she ran with it. So now we have a craft latte and matcha shop inside of our medical spa, and we have our grand opening on October 11th, and
That's
that's what I'm
awesome.
looking most forward to right now.
That's
At
really
Mila.
exciting. So people can swing in for a couple latte. They can come in. Wow, that's awesome. Congrats.
It's been really neat because we've had patients that have come in for medical services that grabbed a coffee, and then we've had clients that come in for coffee and they're like, oh, there's a medical spa in here. Can I have a menu of services? So it's really great on both ends. And then organically, we had an influencer. I think she has about 50,000 followers on TikTok. She's precious. She happens to be an esthetician. Yesterday, actually, she shared a video of her going into Luma and she got a latte. We didn't know she was coming. She made the best video. She was shouting us out, saying it was the best coffee she's ever had. She rates different coffee shops all around, and so that was really exciting.
That's really cool. That's really cool. Well, you're up to so many exciting things. For anyone who, I'm sure we're going to get a ton of interest in this, so be careful as to what you say next. But for anyone who's interested in learning more about what you're doing at at Mila, what you're doing at Method, what's the best way for them to connect with you, Britt?
We have our primary medical spa site that actually can also link to our Method site. So it is milamedspa.com. That is our medical spa website. And then methodaa.com is the training facility. But again, they link together. And then our Instagram is at Mila Med Spa. So I would love to connect with anyone that has questions. I'm constantly answering DMs to answer questions. A lot of it usually comes down to laws in Florida or how do I get started. I never get tired of answering those questions. So whoever's listening, just know that I'll never get annoyed over a question. I'm so thankful to all the mentors that I've personally had that I am just at a time in my life where I'm ready to give back and I'm happy to help.
That's absolutely incredible. And thanks so much for sharing all the wisdom, the insights. I really am grateful that you've been able to come on today to, I think, share really behind the scenes. There's a lot of personality. There's a lot of ways that sometimes we forget, right? We're here for a short time. And so we should make it a really enjoyable time for ourselves, for the people that we work with, for our customers, for our clients. And I've really got the sense that you do that every day as you move forward on your mission at Mila and Method. So thanks for sharing everything that you shared with us today, Brittany. Really appreciate it.
I love that. I love what you said because our patients and our people choose to be with us. Like they are choosing to come work for us. They are choosing to spend their time with us as a patient. And you just hit the nail on the head with that.
Now, is there anything else? Should I have asked you anything? Is there something that we didn't cover? Is there any parting message that you'd like to leave for our audience?
I think that you covered everything very well. The name of the book that I was talking about with the popsicle phone line is The Power of Moments. And you mentioned Unreasonable Hospitality, which is another favorite on my shelf. I encourage injectors and business owners to immerse themselves in education and never stop learning. Never have the ego that you know everything because ultimately this field is ever evolving. And that is one thing that makes me so passionate about it because I wake up every day and there's something new. How exciting is that? How exciting is it to be in a field where things are constantly evolving and I can wake up every day and be a better version of myself as a boss, as a leader, as a mentor, and I'm a forever student as well.
I love it. I love it. I love that lifelong learning mantra that I've heard and got to know a little better of the episode today. So Brittany, thanks so much. This has been incredible. For anybody listening, make sure you check out Mila, check out Method. And Brittany, thanks again for joining the Aesthetics Growth Podcast.
Thank you. This was so fun.
Hey, it's Breffy with ClinicGrower, and I've got a quick favor to ask. If you're loving the Aesthetics Growth Podcast, go ahead and hit that like or hit that subscribe, more importantly, so that we can keep bringing you the best of the industry. I really want this to be impactful and the highest quality and the best way that you can help us to do that is to hit that like, hit that subscribe. And remember, if you would like to be a guest on the Aesthetics Growth Podcast, go to clinicgrower.com/podcast.
This is the Aesthetics Growth Podcast.